Hello, everybody. I'm Jill Burke from Calligraphy I am Jill Burke from Calligraphy Chronicles. Say that. And I'm here with Renee Alexander, who is, I think, in Vancouver, right?
Yes, I'm in Vancouver, North Vancouver to be precise.
And you
we
can
had snow
tell that
this
you are
morning.
not in the same place as I am because we have like a monster dump of snow outside and your backyard is green.
You can see that? It
Yep.
is green now, but first thing this morning, it had a skim of white. Just a skim.
Well, I think we got like 5 centimeters of snow here last night. And underneath the snow, it's not green.
Well, we have cherry blossoms blooming. We have daffodils out, many flowers, and then it turns suddenly very cold.
It's always such a shock to me when I go to Vancouver this season of the year, because it feels like we're such in deep winter in my part of Canada, and you're already in spring.
Yes, yes.
And I don't think that's fair, Renee.
But we get the rain.
But you get the rain. That is true. So, but let's, now that we've talked about the weather, as all good Canadians do.
Yes.
Tell me why you started in calligraphy. And honest to God, like when I got your work, so I'm pretty new to calligraphy. Other people know that. I'm very new to calligraphy. And when I asked at last year's conference who people wanted to study from, like people came to my desk, more than one person came to my desk and said, can you please bring Renee Alexander?
Oh, I'm thrilled that they did.
Right? I know it's always nice to be loved. So they're like coming in. So then I Googled your work and I'm like, oh, please bring it, Renee Alexander. Please say yes. Because your work is so, I want to say like lovely is not the right word because almost all calligraphy is lovely. It looks so thoughtful and intentional and like there's color and there's images and it's all woven together in a way that's so fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
How did you get there? Like what made you go into that particular way of weaving work together in calligraphy? A lot of stuff.
Well, I should say that, I was born into an artistic household. So my mother was a calligrapher in the very traditional British tradition, but my father was a career artist. And he was a fantastic artist. He was an excellent draftsman, artisan. He could do anything, illustration, gilding, coat of arms, but he was mostly known for his painting and portraiture in particular. So, I was privileged to start out in a very artistic atmosphere. However, I do want to point out that there is this misconception that children are taught by their artistic parents. They aren't. They don't have the time or the energy. They are so busy, they're freelance, both freelance, eking out a living and raising children and being stressed out about client expectation. So you could say it was an odd choice for me to choose to be a freelance artist because I knew the challenges ahead.
So there's a certain amount of permission that goes with seeing somebody else do something.
Very true.
But at the same time, you're right. Like that is also the scariest part of being an artist is never knowing where your next
paycheck is coming from.
Yeah. And so but you persevered and you're a writer, you're an artist, you do illustrations, you weave a lot of pieces into that.
Well, you're right. I did have the examples, first of all, by my mother, who was a pioneer. We're talking about someone who, she was, she only had 1 year of art school, and she studied under Grace Melvin at the Vancouver School of Art. That's what it was called before it was changed to Emily Carr's School of Art and Design. She went out and got a job, when she was still in her teens, working at Woodward's in the display department, writing show cards. And she eventually became head show card writer. And while she was there, she was asked to design the Woodward's logo. Oh. The brush one. And, it's iconic here. When she got married, she had to give up her job. In those days, a woman had to leave her job if she got married. And so
shocking?
Isn't that shocking? To think that in this, looking back, so we have made progress as women.
Yeah.
But she started to freelance at home, and her first client was doing the Woodward's retirement scrolls. So we were raised watching our mother work because her little studio was in the house. Whereas
Right.
my dad's studio was in different locations in Vancouver. He eventually did move his studio home later in life, but so she was an example. And then, of course, the second example was meeting Sheila Waters,
Oh,
who
so
was my
many
major.
people
Yeah,
will say that to
yeah,
me. Yeah. And
yeah.
so she was in New York, I think, right?
She was
No.
in Gaithersburg, Maryland when I
So did
first
you
met her.
study with her? Like
I
she used to
did
do these week-long kind of,
2 week long summer workshops.
yeah.
Intensive, very good. So, first of all, she came to Vancouver to teach a workshop and to lecture on her manuscript Under Milkwood. So, I met her then and I saw her work. And when I saw her work, I went, okay, that's what calligraphy can be. And it was her work that actually inspired me to make that choice. I just, you know, stunning. That piece is absolutely stunning. The book,
Just
the
pulled
manuscript.
pulled you in.
It was the combination of the way she integrated the design and illustrations in particular that title page. Just a beautiful inclusion of the two, illustration, design, and lettering. And color. She was a master at color. Yeah.
You know,
And so was my father.
thing that
Color.
surprised me most as I kind of got into calligraphy was how much color and how it's used. It is so much more than you think it's going to be.
A
You,
huge subject.
yeah,
Huge subject. Yeah.
and you use color a lot when you work.
Yes.
When you first decide what you're going to do, you figure out you want to try something new. What's your process like? Like how long does it take you to like that pear in a I want to call it the partridge in the pear tree. Like
Right.
how long does it take you to figure out where everything goes and what colors you're going to use?
Well, I am slow. It's not super fast. Usually, I start with, well, what could I maybe use? Is this going to be a standalone piece? Could I use it as a Christmas card? What am I going to do with this? What do I want to include? Well, I want to include lettering. I want to include the design so that it works with the letters, that they're not two separate things stuck
Right?
beside each other. So I like shapes like, a tree is a wondrous thing that shelters, feeds, and protect, that one, that little
Yes,
piece.
I know that one.
So I wanted it, how do I give the image of a tree without drawing a tree? Well, I'm going to make it just a rectangle, like maybe a shrub or something like that. And then I'll attach things to it, like leaves or the trunk of the tree in an abstract way. And then the letters create the filling of the tree
Right.
and choose appropriate colors in that way. So it was the same thing with the partridge in the pear tree. I wanted to, create that illusion of a tree without it being, a detailed picture of one, but give the illusion of a tree, and the letters and the little design help to create that tree. So really, when you're designing something, you're solving a bunch of problems rather than just dreaming something up. I also
Mm.
thought, well, how am I going to, I want to put the pears in, I want to put the partridge in. So how am I going to treat the partridge? Am I going to draw, a very detailed illustration of a partridge? No, I just felt that wasn't going to work in this setup. And so I drew a partridge fairly detailed, and then I abstracted it so that it fit with the letters, which are abstract, and the simple leaves. So that's
Yeah.
how it came together. And choosing the right colors, like the two different greens, the green of the pears and the green of the leaves, and the green of the letters, because even though it's a blue green, it is a different green. So it creates more dimension.
Yeah. And was that something that you did for a specific project, or is that just something you woke up in the morning and thought, I'm going to do this today?
I did it for myself and also to sell as cards. And I have wanted to do the partridge in a pear tree for a long time, but I never really thought about how I was going to do it without it looking like all the many other versions of a partridge in a pear tree.
So then
And
it
then
just takes a while for it to percolate through,
for me,
right?
it does. I'm sure other people are.
Well, everybody everyone's got a different process. If we all had the same process,
And some things come right away,
yeah,
and other things don't. Some things you don't really, you want to do it, but there's no rush to do it. It's not like it's a commission. A
yeah,
commission is a totally different thing where you're given parameters that that the client has given you, and based on those conditions and what they want and how much they're willing to spend, you create something.
right.
So
So what do you think that there was a moment in your career where there was like a giant breakthrough where I mean you've taught at Emily Carr, so pretty prestigious school. You've done a couple of pretty big media sorts of things, worked on some big projects. Did there
the
feel like a
film.
moment where you broke through and like you're a giant success? Or did it
Am I?
I don't know.
Don't know. I think, for a long time, I really wanted to get better at illustration. And so at one point, I took a continuing ed course from Elizabeth Mancini on botanical art.
Mm,
First of all, drawing and then painting. And I think that is the transition period for me. And it came quite easily to me, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So it was a different approach from learning drawing and painting in art school. And so when I took this botanical illustration, I started to go off in a different direction. So I think that was the turning point. Yeah.
and do you feel like you go off in different directions every few years, like something new kind of grabs you, or do you think that I like to go somewhere new in every few years?
And that is good. I mean, there is this debate about whether you should just stick in a narrow slot and like just really become proficient at one lettering style. And I actually, some people believe that you should just put all your energy in a few things to become good
Yeah.
at them. But what I have found is that when you do learn something new, not totally new, it's related to what you do,
Right.
that it informs what you already know, and you look at what you were doing before in a different way. And
Yeah.
there's always little gems of information that you will get when you're learning something related, but an
It almost is like
advanced.
you're looking at from just like a different lens, or you see the whole perspective changes
Yeah,
when you
a
learn
different
something new.
perspective. Yeah.
And that I never think that's a bad thing. Our brains are probably meant to do that, right? Like otherwise you just stay in a static place your whole life. And
I think that it's sometimes already in you, and when you switch direction or perspective slightly, it becomes clear. It becomes so, but I have always chosen to study under I think are the top people. I mean, I was very fortunate that I met Sheila Waters and
yeah,
I got an excellent foundation to
yeah.
start. I also met and studied under Anne Heckel, who, made me look at lettering quite differently because she was all about spontaneous versals.
Oh,
And so that was something that I had never seen before until I saw Anne Heckel's work. And I was fortunate enough to study with her at Imperial College. She did a workshop for a group, a calligraphy tour group from Vancouver that went over there and did a tour of the chapter houses and cathedrals and libraries looking at ancient
oh wow.
manuscripts. Yes. And then studied with Anne. And that tour was organized by my mother.
Oh,
And yes, and she did it for the BC chapter of the Italic Handwriting Society, which later became West Coast Calligraphy Society.
the evolutions of those
Yes,
societies. Some of them are
yes,
quite old.
yes. Well, it was a
Really rich
chapter of
histories.
the British. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it was good to make that change
yeah.
because we weren't just about Italic handwriting. It was
No.
about far.
So when you think about being a calligrapher in our modern chaotic, you're on your iPad, I'm on my computer, and that change of pace and the change of the cadence of communication changes so much, even if you're just doing normal cursive.
Yeah.
And it changes even more when you're slowing down even further to do calligraphy. How do you think that fits in our crazy modern world? And how does it change your perspective on the world, do you think?
Okay, well, this is an interest and a huge topic to discuss.
Yeah, it's more than just a simple question, but it is.
Because, technology has helped calligraphers, and it has also changed our role hugely. I mean, but here's the good thing, Jill. Every big technology, whether it was the printing press or
Yep.
the letraset or the computer or whatever, we're still here. We're still doing things by hand. So there's always been this resurgence of interest in things done by hand, like calligraphy. And I think that it is always our reaction to technology, which we can use, but we also fight against it. I mean, look at the craftsman's movement in response to the Industrial Revolution. Look at the beautiful, incredible things that were created at a time when machines were mass producing things. And it was that reaction to the horrific work conditions of laborers in the industrial age, and also the output of so much poor quality goods. And so there was this reaction to create beautiful handcrafted products and lettering.
I feel like so much of what we get into our houses, our environment is disposable, right? We buy disposable clothes, we get our books on our iPads, we get so much of it just feels disposable. That when we touch something real that somebody's created that touches our heart and pulls in our imagination, there's a pendulum swing to that. There's obviously a place for mass-produced blue jeans or whatever, but there's also a place for things that are made intentionally and connect us to a deeper level of thinking and being and loving the world that we're in.
Well, we have to look at the cost of what these technologies have done to the world. So, it seems to get the greater the technology, it seems to be the greater the price we pay. I mean, just look at AI. There's a huge fear that are we going to be, what use will we be if AI is going to become more intelligent and be able to create everything for us? And it is also changing us in our craving for perfection. Look at how our society, we can't age. We have to
Heaven
remain.
forbid.
Yes, they no longer see the beauty. Society will no longer see the beauty in aging. We're creating this, AI will create this culture of perfectionism. And I just find it very interesting that all the major religions have said how dangerous it is to pursue perfection. Buddhists believe that craving perfection leads to suffering and dissatisfaction. I mean, look at people who, kids who are on social media. They see these examples of perfect beauty.
Very, very small slices of somebody's life.
Yeah, and they immediately become terribly dissatisfied with their own because they feel that they can't live up to this ideal of perfection. In Islam or Judaism, it teaches us that we should be authentic to ourselves rather than pursuing this idea of perfection. In Islam, only Allah is perfect. We are flawed, and there is a beauty and grace in that. And in Christianity, to be striving for perfection is pride-based, whereas to pursue excellence, which is a different thing from pursuing perfection,
right? Absolutely.
Is a love-based endeavor, and that grace is more evident in imperfection. So we're going down a dangerous path. Governments were warned about this. We as people were warned about this, but how will we handle it? I don't know.
It is going to be a very interesting. I mean, we're in interesting times, and yes. I think that's a curse, like the Confucius curse. May you live in interesting times. Wasn't that Confucius? We're in for interesting times, or we are in interesting times, maybe already.
But we have the capacity to rise to the challenge.
And I think there's a pendulum swing too.
Yes.
And also, I love what you say about giving yourself grace. I love that. To take up a pen for the first time, or take up a paintbrush, or let your house be messy, let your car be a little bit dirty. Like, just give yourself a little bit of grace where you're at, so that you can show up more authentically in the world and give yourself a really good life. For pursuit of perfection, I think just it's hard to have a good life when you're worried about being perfect.
Yes. However, I'm spewing all this,
Yeah.
Philosophical. And yet at the same time, I'll look at a piece that I've done and I'll go, oh God, why didn't I? So there's it's not like I am giving myself grace all the time. There's a lot of self-doubt and wishing I had done something differently or whatever. Yeah. But that's,
to me, I
that's how
think
we
that's
grow.
also part of the artistic process, right?
Of course it is.
You look at one thing that you've done and think, oh, that is lovely, or somebody else thinks it's lovely, even if we don't. And then you go, oh, well, if I did it this way this time, and then you learn, that's part of your learning process and figuring out how you want to present yourself the next time around.
Yes.
In a way that's
of course, it is a learning
differently.
process. But it's funny, I think in some cultures, they believe that feng shui, that you should maybe put away a piece that you've finished, to put it away, to not have it front and center all the time, because it will not, if it's always there and you're looking at it, you won't move on and grow from it and do something else. You'll always be looking at it and criticizing it and change, I should have done this, or so they say put it away and don't look at it.
Do you do that?
I do have some pieces hanging on my wall, so no, not entirely.
Well, it's also like, because sometimes you create something that because you want a particular look or piece for a place, and it's an expression of beauty that you've created. And I think it's kind of nice to have things that you've created on your wall.
And also, it helps you with storage. You can put it on the wall. I downsized a few years ago considerably, and so I don't have much space. So I have to put it on the wall.
Put it on the wall. So you're coming to Calgary to teach at the Flourish Festival by request.
Yes.
By special request.
And I thank all those people.
We're going to have we are really going to have so much fun. We had a blast last year. It was a bit of a surprise how much fun we had.
And I heard that it was done on such a fast timeline.
We decided to do it kind of at the beginning of July. So we had about 3 months. And so we had great, like, even just, obviously I was meant to do that because to get like Nina Tran and Carlo Chu and Barry Morantz and Gabriella and everyone else to come. Julie Wildman made it. Like, just to get everybody to be able to have that time free and be able to get there was its own. And I'm sorry if you watched this and I didn't mention you. We had the most spectacular teachers. Like, really, it was such a blessing to pull it off. And so now we're doing it again. And
a real mix of teachers, which is
a real mix.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And I tried to do that again this year, and I think we've succeeded. We also have, it's not a slouchy lineup this year either. It's a pretty good lineup.
I think so, yeah. And
you're teaching built up capitals. So tell me what you're teaching, and tell me what you're going to teach and what it's going to be like for people.
Okay, so it's Capitals Constructed, and we're going to start. So the two courses, they kind of, the first one, we start, looking at the Roman inscriptional caps that are extremely challenging to do.
They look easy though. Oh my God. I took a class. I'm like, this is what I'm going to be able to do. No, I can't.
Well, you will, but it takes a great deal of practice.
Right.
And I highly recommend John Stevens' book, that he just recently published on capitals and brush capitals. Stunningly beautiful book and great tips in there and a good foundation. But those capitals are challenging because they're geometric. And being that we're human and flawed and
flawed
and other cannot be perfect, it's challenging. So we're going to look at them. And the other thing that makes them challenging is there's widths, a variety of widths. The narrow letters, the medium, the wider ones. And there, if you add manipulation with your brush as you're doing them, it creates, beautiful forms. So we're going to look at them. We're not going to try and be able to do them perfectly, but we will look at them. and talk about them. And then we will move into making them more hand-friendly. So they become more modular, they become curves don't have to be, based on the circle, but flattened more and compressed. And most of us tend to write with a slight slope. So there's this uplift to the letters.
Yeah.
And we'll build them up with pencil to start. We'll play with weight, the weighting of them, and then we will try constructing them with gouache and nib. Then the second course goes from there, and we're going to play with not just weight, but rhythm, stretching and compressing, and designing the line as we go along. How does this letter relate to the one before in anticipation of the one that's coming after? We will so they end up being like word designs, and we will, again, use gouache, pencil and gouache in the second course as well.
And we're keeping your classrooms, I think, fairly smallish so that there's tons of feedback too. So you're not going to get it's not that there's anything wrong, because we do have bigger classes too, but it's not a lecture room that you're teaching in. We're going to really don't be scared, because Renee's going to make sure you get it. I'd really love to take those classes. My husband says I can't take classes. I'm like, I don't know. And that's the other thing too. I don't know how you choose, but so they're connected but not the same. So people can take one or the other, and especially if you've got a little bit of Roman in your background, you'll be good.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful to take the two together.
Yeah.
But certainly advanced calligraphers could do the second one without doing the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I had another question right in my head. It was right there. No, it's gone. Oh, I know what it was. So if you're teaching between now and then, obviously, because we're at March and that's not till October. So if somebody wants to learn from you between now and then, is there a way they can do that?
Jill, my primary work is not teaching. It's mostly commissions. And I have a client base that
if you want to learn from Renee, you have to come to Calgary, is what she's saying.
You'll have to come to Calgary. And I have not taken up Zoom. I've been asked many, many, many times to do Zoom classes, and I've just never taken it up. I just, it's a huge investment of one's time, and I'm getting to the point where what do I want to do? If I'm not doing commissions, I want to do my art. So I don't know how much time I really want to put into teaching. And the teaching that I do, I want it to be in person, because in person teaching, I am not just, Zoom is great.
I think there's room for both.
There's room for both, but I do prefer to teach in person, because there is an energy in the class when you're together that isn't there on a computer. Your sixth sense has a barrier when there's a screen between you. There's an energy, a vibration, just feeling that you get when you're in person, a connectivity to each other.
And I think just from a classroom perspective, if you were teaching me online and you had 16 people, whatever it is, I can see you can see all 16 of us, but I can't see the person next to me. Those little things that you say, oh my God, I love your A, right? Like all those the little communications, the micro communications that provide connection are missing in a Zoom classroom.
Yeah, and getting up and moving around, because taking breaks is beneficial, and going around and viewing what other people are doing. Maybe the instructor is showing something to another student. You go, oh, I want to see that again, or I want that made more clear to me.
Yeah.
You're going to jump up and you're going to run over there. I also find on Zoom, you can't be on Zoom for a long period of time. You get really tired. Your energy is not the same.
Yeah, like I have a class coming up with Barry that's 3 or 4 hours long, but I honestly, most of the time, 2 hours is absolutely the max that you can do in one.
I think so.
Yeah. And in a class, I mean, we're teaching, I think it's 7-hour days that we're teaching. Even just a difference in your work, having worked on something for 7 hours in a row, is different than you'd get from from a Zoom class.
Yeah. And oftentimes, if the classrooms are left open, people are there after dinner working.
And they will
as
be.
well.
They will have the option to go back in after dinner. I mean, we also have some pretty awesome programming in the evening. So I don't know, but
I just had to
go back. Yeah.
Just talking about teaching, I just have to tell you about a recent experience I had. I was asked to come to an elementary school and teach children in grade 3 and 4 calligraphy, or to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so, here's a generation of kids that are growing up with technology, and, they're studying on iPads and everything else. Books don't seem to be present. But the kids, I have to tell you, they were so enthusiastic about doing letters by hand.
Yeah.
And, they were also absolutely in awe of the story of writing and how the alphabet came about. And I had different samples. I had a huge piece of rice paper with beautiful Chinese calligraphy on it by a friend of mine. And this little boy jumped out of his desk and ran up and was so excited because outside of school, he takes Chinese calligraphy. So he was able to tell the class what the poem said.
How good is that?
Amazing. And then, I had brought quills, and I said, look at the quill. This is like your fingernail. Or look at the vellum, and you can see where the hair side was and where the flesh side was. And, what happens to the vellum when it gets damp, it starts to take the shape of the. They were just, spellbound. And then, here's rag paper. Long ago, when they first started making rag paper, it was called rag paper because they would rip up the rags and soak them until they became fibrous and make the paper from that, recycling. And anyway, they were very excited about it and made some beautiful shapes with their letters. The bell rang for lunch, and I thought, oh, they're just going to fly out of here. It's break time. They didn't. They stayed because they wanted to try my metal pen. I had done 2 alphabets for them, an italic and then a copper plate. And they wanted to try those 2 nibs with the gouache. So, I assisted them, and they each patiently waited to try it. Now, before they all took
children of such a part of their souls.
Yeah.
By not letting them handwrite.
Yeah, but when they say they're bringing it back, it's not bringing it back the way it was, say, when I was a child and it was a full daily course was handwriting. We forget that very well-educated people had beautiful handwriting. I can never seem, when I'm asked to, when I worked for the film industry, when I was working on, I didn't do any of the samples of lettering on Little Women with Winona Ryder. I was asked to come in and tutor Winona Ryder on how to use a metal nib. And they have all kinds of misconceptions. The director had asked for, not me, but asked for someone to do a sample of an educated man's handwriting. And I told them that, they wanted it to be messy to indicate that it was a man's handwriting. I said, well, that's not historically correct. Yeah. A man who is well educated would have beautiful, legible handwriting. I mean, clerks like Bob Cratchit in A Christmas Carol was lettering in very carefully the ledger. Yeah. It had to be legible. So this is a common misconception. Also, Winona Ryder thought that, her hands had to be covered in ink. She thought that was showing the personality or tendency of the character of the role she was playing. And, well, no, you've learned how to write with a dip pen. You would know how to contain it. You wouldn't be crazy wild with it.
No,
just
and
little
you
things like
want
that.
ink all over the place because
no,
honestly, you didn't just buy a new smock because you got ink on one. Like it wasn't that easy in those days to just throw something out and get a new shirt.
Right, because that ink does not come out. I don't know if you've ever spilled ink on yourself, but it never comes out.
No, it is. And so when you worked with her, did she feel like at the end of it she got it, or did you work enough with her that she could?
The problem with film is they want everything yesterday, and everything has to be immediate. I tried to impart, what was important about using the pen and how to use it. So it would be authentic, and to get the right, to speak with the prop misters to get the right style of nib too for the period that they're doing. But I had the same problem with the Lemony Snicket series, that the man's handwriting will be messy for the journal.
Yeah.
You can't convince them otherwise. So you
just
do
don't.
what they want.
Yeah. I read this, and I don't know if it's true, but maybe you can clarify this. Actually, I don't even think I read it. I think Callow maybe said it in passing, that in England, when they all had scripts and they did whatever, that part of knowing like who wrote the bank draft would be you would know a specific, like it wasn't like everybody in London wrote by hand. Large portions of the population didn't know how to write.
Right.
Like the idea that your housekeeper would know how to write a list is probably not true.
Exactly.
Knew how to write, and your writing would be very recognizable because
right. And we can often discriminate between different calligraphers today,
right?
By their style. Absolutely.
Even though it's very similar, there's small differences.
And here's the other thing about, we were talking about technologies, and I was discussing this with the grade 3 and 4s, that over time, at one time our brains were fashioned for oral memory. People would recite long poems, long songs. In the Middle East, they would recite the directions to making a rug. That was all in their heads. That was a memory. Their brains were set up that way. Now, as we are developed that way, not set up that way, developed. And as we moved into a written language, reading and writing, our brains changed to adapt for that. So when people talk about the neuroplasticity of the brain and the fact that children need to be using their hands to grow brain branches, and they're not getting those small motor skills and just developing thumbs, what is going to happen to our brain? And I posed this question to the children, and I said, what do you think is going to happen to our brains if IA does everything for us? And they said, well, our brains will turn to mush.
They get it. I do. And I, especially as you watch kind of, not that there's a giant resurgence of calligraphy and handwriting, but there's definitely an uptick in interest.
Yeah, it's the reaction to, Rage Against the Machine, I guess. Just like, the Back to the Land movement in the 60s.
Yeah.
That was a reaction to post-World War II industrialism and consumerism and a fear of annihilation from nuclear bombs. It was all a reaction to that. And I think that there is another resurgence because of AI. There's a fear. There's a wanting to go back to the way it was before the technology.
And I think as human beings, we need to be connected to something bigger than ourselves. And creativity is sort of a mirror of the universe. And when we get to be creative, we get to be a bigger person than ourselves. We get to be connected.
Yeah. What it does to us, also there's also a resurgence to doing things by hand, because look at the increase in mental health issues. To do something by hand is a way of calming the brain and the person. My sister was a high school teacher, and in English high school teacher, and she taught kids that were having difficulty in the regular stream of English. And so she had to teach them all the requirements, introduce them to Shakespeare, etc., for them to graduate. But she created a whole program suited to them. She brought in mythology. She brought in handwriting. She talked about how when she went to school, the teacher would write something on the wall. She would speak it as she wrote it, and you would be reading it. And you would write it, speak it, and read it. those three things reinforced the idea that was being taught, the information that was being taught, and that would help you. So she actually taught them a little bit of calligraphy, and they all set about doing a project that was like a manuscript. And she found that it calmed them, calmed their anxiety in class. Look at how many people take up knitting. The same thing. It's a meditation, a form of meditation. How often have you done some lettering and gone into that meditative state doing
And
it?
it trains your brain, right? And means
To focus, yeah.
focus, but also to just, so much of your brain is involved in that the worry, the thing that's repeating itself in your brain like a woodpecker, just has to drift away because there's no space for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. We've solved all the world's problems. Take calligraphy.
That's
So tell me
Calgary.
something good that's happened to you this week, Renee, before we say goodbye to everyone. Or lately. It doesn't have to be this week, although it's green outside your door, so something good has happened to you.
Well, it is. And I am looking forward to spring, but I'm not looking forward to having to go out there and do the garden, order the soil.
Yeah. It's too early for me to think about that. Mine is all covered in white right now.
But then you're really going to have to move it when it gets sunny and warm.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping to put some tomatoes and some stuff out there this year so that.
Doesn't it just kind of happen instantly there? Like it's summer.
It's summer. One day it's not, and the next day it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for taking some time and chatting to me, and I can hardly wait till we're together in Calgary in the fall.
I look so forward to it, and it was a pleasure talking to you, Jill, and meeting you online.
I'm meeting you online. I know we really don't know each other yet, and I think that's part of the big fun. I mean, that is the best part of the conference. It doesn't matter how many chats like this you can have online. Meeting somebody in person changes everything.
It does.
Yeah,
it does.
That thing you said about vibrations, so true. Well, have a
wonderful. I'm getting a good vibration from you.
Thank you. As am I. And yeah, I love this. I love this weird little calligraphy tangent my life has taken. I was not predicting it. Wasn't what I was planning to do, and it's just been a glorious little gift. So,
and thank you for all the work that you do for calligraphy.
It's been fun. Yeah.
And before we go, we should say that we're not dissing all technology, right? We're just like, there has to be a balance.
And honestly, like there are people that create amazing things on Procreate, and there are, I mean, without the computer, it's hard to write a book and get it out there in the world.
Yeah.
There are tons of good uses for technology, but pick up a pen or paintbrush or do something that gardening. I mean, there's a million ways to be creative.
I just want to add, before we go, that I listened to a very good interview a while back of they were interviewing an architect, and I'm sorry, I can't remember who it was, but he told the interviewer that now that he's teaching architecture and that the students learn on the computer, they've got all the programs for drafting now that's not done by hand. He said that the ones that actually learn how to do it by hand and not just rely on computers have a much better understanding of architecture than just doing it online, which I thought was an interesting comment. So with lettering, those that actually learn how to do it manually and master it manually, how much better are they going to be on the technology in designing fonts and things like that? They're going to have a much greater understanding of letter forms and the history of it than just creating on technology without any of that manual experience.
Yeah.
I think it makes a difference.
I think it's like brain-hand connection.
Yeah.
Right? Like what you said about developing a different part of your brain. It is true. So pick up a pen.